supremacy or Edomite supremacy. You see, putting himself on top and making sure that we follow the rules under Christianity that he deemed for us, man. That had nothing to do with the scriptures. Okay, so this is why many Americans prefer their Sunday segregated. Now, this is quoting CNN. The Reverend Paul Earl Shepherd had recently become the senior pastor of a suburban church in California when a group of past parishioners came to him with a disturbing personal question. Promise Keepers, a church men's movement. I guess that's supposed to be a picture. Uh, Reverend Ronnie Wu leads a successful interracial church, but says the church members still class over race. They were worried because the racial makeup of their small church was changing. They warned Shepherd that the church's newest members were trying to seize control because members of their race were inherently aggressive. What was he? What was he going to do for more of them? It's like if more of them tried to join the church. One man asked me if I was prepared for a hostile takeover, said Shepherd, pastor of Abundant Life Christian Fellowship in Mountain View, California. These nervous parishioners were African American, and the church's newcomers were white. Shepherd says the experience demonstrated why racially integrated churches are difficult to create and even harder to sustain. Some blacks as well as whites prefer segregated Sundays. Religious scholars and members of interracial churches say that's right. And why is that? Because they know that there is, spiritually speaking, that there is enmity, between the two races. The so-called black men, which are you Judites, you know, you know, there's something that doesn't have to be said about race. We know that it's there, and we know that these white people inherently hate us, man. Now, the thing about it is, you have these Christians, so-called Christians, and you have uh, these white people. They can't articulate it, but they know that it's there, man. They know that it's there. You see, why is that? Because it's set up spiritually. You see, it's set up for these two nations to have that inherent hatred towards one another. You see, and this article is even proving that. Let's get to the scripts though. Now this is Genesis 25, and I started 22. It says, actually I started 21. And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh was entreated, and Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of Yahweh. So that's symbolic right there. You know what I'm saying? You had Jacob and Esau struggling in Rebekah's womb. You see, because two nations was to come out of Rebekah. You see, you had the nation of Israel. You see, that was to come out of Jacob, and you had the Edomites, which are you so-called white people. That's why there's no, um, that's why there's no getting along with uh, each of the nationalities, man. You see, verse 23, and Yahweh said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manners of people shall be separate from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. That's right. So it was prophesied that Edom was to serve Jacob, but see, It was also prophesied that Edomites were going to rule with the sword, because that was the blessing that was given to them by Jacob. You see, so that's what we see going on now, man. You have these Edomites, that want to say they're all about love and things of that nature, but historically speaking, they're about wickedness and about really killing, death, and murder. And the aspect of that death that we just you know that I just talked about is those lying words, man. You see those vain words that he uses to pacify people, you know, to make excuses for his wickedness and things of that nature. You see. Now this is Second Ezra 6:9 from Isaac from Esau Slakia. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's right. Esau, you Edomites, you so-called white people, you're the end of the world. And we see that being played out. The world under your rulership is being destroyed. You see, but soon Yahweh Shai, who the world called Jesus, is going to return. He's going to set us back, in our rightful position. Until then, there's going to be enmity between us two. You see, our weapons are not carnal, and as history shows, and even more so now, your uh, weapon of warfare, is the actual sword. You see, an aspect of that sword is those great swelling words that you use, you know, to lie to the masses. And Christianity is a huge component of that lie. You see. But let's read it back in this article. I had several other scriptures I wanted to get, but I didn't want to digress too much. So back in one, two, three, third paragraph, the nervous parishioners were African Americans, and the church newcomers were white. Shepherd says the experience demonstrated why racially integrated churches are difficult to create and even harder to sustain. Some blacks as well as whites prefer segregated Sundays. Uh, Religious scholars and members of interracial churches say, and you gotta be careful how Esau write these things too, man. Like black people, are just racist. Really, it's just a reaction. You know, you know that it's a reaction of the treatment by Edomites. That's why blacks, so-called blacks, which are you Jakes out there, uh, you know, Jacob or Jake, we prefer to worship by ourselves, man. You see, why is that? Because we know what it is with you so-called white people, man. You're racist. You see, you're not for everybody. Americans may be poised to nominate a black man to run for president, but it's segregation as usual in U.S. churches. According to the scholars, only about 5% of the nation's churches are racially integrated, and half of them are in the process of becoming all black or all white, says Curtis Paul DeYoung, a co-author of United by Faith, a book that examines interracial churches in the United States. DeYoung's numbers are backed by other scholars who've done similar research. They say integrated churches are rare because attending one is like tiptoeing through a racial minefield. Just like in society, racial tensions in the church can erupt over everything from sharing power to interracial dating. DeYoung, who is also an ordained minister, once led an interracial congregation in Minneapolis, Minnesota that eventually went all black. He defines an interracial church as one in which at least 20% its members belong to a racial group other than the church's largest racial group. I left after 5 years, DeYoung says. I was worn out from the battles. The men and women who remain and led interracial churches often operate like uh, presidential candidates. They say they live with the constant anxiety of knowing that an innocuous, which means harmless, comment or gesture could easily mushroom into a crisis that threaten their support. That's right, man. Hey, though Joe hand in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. You see, people are trying. You got Jake out there that's trying to be good Christians and attend church with Edomites, but the soul, the soul of these people are clashing, man. The spirit of these people are clashing. You see, that enmity is there. You see, and now we're seeing it more and more, and people are seeing more and more that this racism is going to come to a mushroom, man, or a huge conflict, which is prophesied in the scriptures. You see, so judgment is going to be issued out whether or not you know these Christians out here believe it. You see, what it says that in Revelations, Romans the third chapter. You see, so the matter of fact, let me get it. Now this is Romans 3:3. For what if some did not believe? Should their unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect? That's right. So one of some people don't believe that you know, these white people are Edomites and we're Israelites and we are to separate ourselves, and also that there's going to be a huge race war that's going to happen soon. What if they don't believe that? Some people out there, what if they believe that they could all get together under the banner of love? Well, verse 4, God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar. That's right. And you have a lot of people out there that's speaking according to their heart and not according to what the law, statute, commandments say, and also the word of the living power say, man. You see, it says in Isaiah 8:20, to law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because they don't enlighten them. And we know that the spirit of who the world calls Jesus, his name is Yahweh Shai, is the spirit of prophecy. You see, these things are prophesied to happen. One nation is going to rise up against another nation, man. You see, and you have the two, you know, really the two big top nations going at it right now in the spirit, which is you Edomites and us, Yasharahla, Prince of the Power. You see, there's enmity between us two, man. You see, which is prophesied, and eventually we know that Yahweh Shai is going to come. He's going to take you Edomites out. You see, so it's not going to be any coming together, man. And there isn't any coming together. That's just a lie that these Christians use in order to um, defraud us. You see, or defame us, right? So back in verse 4, God forbid, yea, let the Most High be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. That's right. So we're going to be overcome when we are judged. Why is that? Because we speak according to this word here, man, not according to our own heart. You see? Now, Isaiah 28:8, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. The prophet that prophesied the peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that Yahweh hath truly sent him. That's right. So you got all these Christians out there that's talking about love and peace and coming together. That's not happening. It's not happening in your churches, man. You see? That's not happening. So when you know all these prophecies come to pass, people are gonna understand who the true prophets of the Lord are, man. And it's gonna be resting here at GMS, man. You see, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You see, because there's no peace is coming. It's coming to the America, and people aren't gonna come together and sing Kumbaya, man, and say we are all one. We all are one. That's not happening. It's not happening then. It's not happening now. You see, judgment is getting ready to be issued out on the world, man. Chiefly in America, Babylon. Proverbs 11:21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. That's right. So though join hand in hand, our people out there that are Gentiles, they want to, call themselves Christians and get together with these heathens, man. It doesn't matter. Edomites are still going to be destroyed, man. And the seeds of the righteous are going to be delivered. The Most High set up a group of people to be righteous, and He set up a group of people to be wicked. And you all could get together, or lie about that, and lie and say that you're getting together all that you want to. But we know that, scripturally, it's not going to happen. You see? Back in the article, it says right here at it's not all kumbaya and we are the world, says Shepherd, the pastor of the Northern California church, who was raised by his father, a Baptist preacher in the black church. There are plenty of schisms. Can't we just be Christians? If it's so tough, why bother? That's one of the first questions interracial churches must address. The Young says he encountered many blacks who say they wanted a racial timeout on Sunday. They would say, "I need a place of refuge," he said. He says, they said, "I need to come to a place on Sunday morning where I don't experience racism." Whites also complain of their own version of racial fatigue, other scholars say. Theodore Brailsford, co-author of We Are the Church Together, another book that looks at interracial churches, says whites often say that church should transcend race. They've say, can't we just get along without talking about race all the time? Can't we just be Christians? Not really, says advocates for interracial churches. They argue that churches should be interracial whenever possible, because their success could ultimately reduce racial friction in America. But historically, it's never happened. American churches have traditionally done a good job at being Slacky. American churches haven't traditionally done a good job at being racially inclusive. Scholars say slavery and Jim Crow kept blacks and whites apart in the pews in the nation's early history, which really, if you want to get technical, is only 100 years ago, and even later than that, 50 years ago, when desegregation happened, they started allowing, so-called black people, you Jakes out there, to enter into Edomite churches. So historically speaking, there's never been, it's never been getting together in between you so-called Negroes and you so-called Caucasians, man. Some large contemporary black denominations like the African Methodist Episcopal Church was formed because blacks couldn't find acceptance in white churches. Large denominations like the Methodist, Baptist, and Presbyterians split over race in the 19th century when their members clashed over the issue of slavery. Michael Emerson, a scholar on interracial churches, recounting in his book Divided by Faith. But interracial churches advocates say the church was never meant to be segregated. They point to the New Testament description of the first Christian church as an ethnic stew and deliberately broke social division by uniting groups that were traditionally hostile to one another, they said. And that was Gentiles that were Israelites. You see? That was Gentiles that were Israelites. They wasn't, actual Gentiles, man, Edomites that were coming in, things of that nature. You see? So that's a huge lie. You see? A huge misconception about the scriptures. This book isn't for everybody, and this book isn't about coming together with your enemy. You see, the scriptures speak against that. And also, these white people aren't for you, black people, man. They're not. They're not for you, man. They're not for you, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And they have proven that throughout history, man. You see? Now all of a sudden, integrated churches are a problem. It's only like five. It only makes up 5% of the church population. You see? That's nothing that's new. This was always going on. Why is that? Because you have Edomites out there that are demons, and that want to put you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, or keep you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans as second-class citizens, man. You see? But why? Because he's ruling with that sword. Now, this is Psalms 52, and I started 2. The tongue deviseth mischief like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than the speech, rather than to speak knowledge, righteousness. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. That's right, and that's the so-called white man. You see, he loves these. Again, I said I'm gonna say these feigned, or it means fame means fake. These feigned words, man, that he uses, to really hew down the people. You see, to control the people, chiefly you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. He wants to say that he's about love and coming together and things of that nature. You see, but his actions speak otherwise. It's all a gimmick. It's all a form of control that he uses, in order to keep, you man and you women, chiefly you man, under subjection, because he uses your woman against you. Christianity is the people, the women of the churches, they'll be some of the most contrary, self-righteous women that you have ever met in your life, man. You see? And that's another tool, that Satan uses to keep division within our household, man. You see? Let me get this in Psalms 10. There we go. Psalms 10 and 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. You see that happening now. The so-called white man, is trying to crouch himself and, and seem humble, because he understands that spiritually speaking, he's being called out, and he can't take it, man. Calling somebody white nowadays is calling him the N-word, because he's feel guilty. His ways are devouring him now, man. Verse 3. For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire, and blesses the covetous whom Yahweh abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in his thoughts. That's right. And Most High is not in the thoughts of you of the Edomites, man. They're not about coming together. They're about establishing dominance. You see, that's why Vocab and Malone is going on a smear campaign. That's why Jesus' word is going on a smear campaign. Why is that? Because they are establishing dominance for the so-called white race or Edomites. You see, which the top of the Edomites nation are those so-called Jews over there, which we know that Jesus' word is so-called Jew, and also Vocab Malone. You see, verse 5, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never see adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. That's right. So underneath his tongue is mischief and vanity, going into the lies and deceit of modern Christianity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. That's right. In these Christian churches, man, they have murdered, millions of so-called black people and Latino, and especially Native American. Oh my goodness. You see? But they want to sit up, they want to say that they're all about love and things of that nature. And they prove historically and contemporary they're not about love, man. You see? It's nothing but a hustle, man. Christianity is a hustle. You see? That our own people use on one another. But chiefly, the so-called white man uses it as a form of mind control, man. You see? So there is no coming together with the wicked. No peace to the wicked. The Most High has exposed the wickedness of you so-called white people through his mouth, which is, the prophets of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and Lord willing, we're going to continue to expose you Edomites, man. Your kingdom is going down before your eyes. You had nobody but to blame yourself. Don't get mad at us. Get mad at the Lord. He didn't choose you. It is what it is. You see? And we're out here for our own people, man. We're out here for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. The rest of you people are going into slavery, especially you Edomites, you so-called white people. You are going to slavery. You're going to slavery, man. And rightfully so. All right? Shalom.